Good morning, world history students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and these are your notes for Chapter 19, Sections 1 and 2. And you have this form somewhere in your possession, so make sure that you follow along and fill in the information that you need. So here we go. Chapter 19, Section 1 deals with the scientific revolution. And number one, the scientific revolution occurred in the 1600s when European scientists began to form scientific hypotheses or guesses or theories that attempted to explain facts. At the forefront of this scientific revolution was a Polish scientist known as Nicholas Copernicus, who studied the sun's position in the universe and Earth's motion relative to the sun. Number three, in the early 1600s, Johannes Kepler used mathematics to prove that the planets moved around the sun. Galileo Galilei also investigated the planetary movements, encountering fierce opposition from the Catholic Church, whose teachings and his findings happen to contradict. At some point in time, the Catholic Church will excommunicate Galileo, but over the years, they have recounted that, and Galileo has had that overturned. And number four, the English scientist Sir Isaac Newton was born in 1642, and he used the scientific method to formulate groundbreaking theories in mathematics and physics. In his book, The Mathematic Principles of Natural Philosophy, aka Principles, he explained and expanded upon the discoveries of Copernicus, Galileo, and Kepler. All right. Number five, in the sciences of biology and chemistry, they were likewise transformed in the 16th and 17th centuries. Andreas Vallas defined French law by French law that prohibited the dissection of human corpses to discover earlier theories about human anatomy. For some reason, it was kind of frowned upon, but a lot of his research has, in a way, helped us understand the human body in the modern day and age. English scientist Robert Hooke used the newly discovered or invented microscope to discover the cell. All right, we're ready for Chapter 19, Section 2, talking about the Enlightenment. Not only were we making scientific discoveries, but we were also making discoveries in the fields of philosophy and writing. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the writers and philosophers of this era. Number one, to which aspect of society did Europeans of the 1600s and 1700s apply the advances of the scientific revolution? Well, political philosophy, law, and religion were a few areas. What did political theorist Thomas Hobbes believe was the best form of government? Well, his belief was that an absolute monarchy, and if you go back to the English Revolution, the time of Charles I and maybe Charles II, we're talking a little bit about the time of an absolute monarch. Hobbes himself, would be one of those philosophers that our founding fathers would look upon and, study and kind of appreciate. But he was a lover of a very strict monarchy, and some of those philosophies are going to be challenged as we move closer to the modern era. Number 3 through number 5. What natural rights did political theorist John Locke believe people have? He believed in this notion of the rights to life, liberty, and property. And if that sounds a little familiar, it should. John Locke was a writer who was writing about 100 years before the American Revolution. And again, many of our founding fathers found his work to be very important as far as how they wanted to define their nation. Thomas Jefferson, in a way, kind of echoes some of these words when he talks about the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness within the Declaration of Independence. The period from the late 1600s to the 1700s is known as the Age of Enlightenment. Thinkers of the time saw the universe as a machine maintained by fixed laws, largely due to the readings of the work of Sir Isaac Newton, who we just got done talking about. All right, question number 6. Prominent thinkers such as Denis Diderot and Baron de Montesquieu contributed to what is known as the Encyclopedia. It was a 28-volume work that presented everything known about science, technology, and history. This would be like the forerunner to the internet, or a forerunner to encyclopedias like the World Book or Britannica. Because of all of this knowledge, this book was actually banned by the Catholic Church. And these two men, Diderot and Montesquieu, were highly criticized by the church. In time, their work would be accepted by the Catholic Church. Artists and musicians and writers, architects, they all espoused the classical ideas of ancient Greece, Rome, and all of their work was known as classicism. Numbers 8 and 9. Distinguished thinkers who asserted the limitations of reason in governing human affairs included English poet William Blake, who saw the Enlightenment as being devoid of emotion and feeling. French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who believed that excessive reliance on reason was bad and we needed to rely more on emotion and instincts. German philosopher Immanuel Kant. He developed something known as metaphysics, which tries to explain the spiritual existence of God, kind of using science, but also, kind of using what we know about faith, kind of combined the two. And finally, number 9, Mary Wollstonecraft was one of our first female writers of this time. She wrote a book called The Vindication to the Rights of Women, which was one of the first books to champion equal rights for women. All right, I hope you were able to get everything written down. We will continue talking about the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment when I see you tomorrow.